I now recognize the gentleman from Connecticut, Mr. Courtney, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, today, September 26th, is now 5 days and counting for the start of the next fiscal year, which, if Congress does not act within this next 5 days, the U.S. government will shut down. I've been around Congress for a while, and I was here in 2013 when the government shut down for 17 days. In 2019, all the agencies under the Department of Homeland Security were shut down for 35 days. This is a disaster for the American people and for our standing in the world if, God forbid, this does not come together in the next 5 days. Mr. Speaker, I represent a district that is a strong defense district. We have the largest military installation in New England, the Groton Submarine Base. We have about 16 attack submarines that are located there, tied up there, that are deploying at heel-to-toe pace constantly. There's about 2,000 civilian employees that make that base operations function as it should. I also have a district which is home of the Coast Guard Academy. That's the institution which is building the future leaders, young men and young women for the Coast Guard who are doing important work, not just in the littoral areas of our nation and the rivers, but also overseas in terms of providing critical assistance to allies who, again, are really struggling with gross violations of the international Convention for Law of the Sea Treaty. And again, the Coast Guard is looked at around the world as really the gold standard in terms of providing quality training and examples for that critical function to take place. In the past, when we had shutdowns, despite some of the ridiculous comments that are made by some of my colleagues in this chamber that, oh, there's nothing, to worry about there, active duty people still have to report, they're going to get paid retroactively. There's really, the concerns about that are overblown. And I will tell you, Mr. Speaker, that is, in my opinion, some of the most irresponsible, dangerous rhetoric that can be uttered at a time like this. The fact of the matter is there is a hardship for people who are wearing the uniform. Many of them go literally from paycheck to paycheck. And in 2019, when the Coast Guard was shut down along with the Department of Homeland Security in New London, we had pop-up food banks to help Coast Guard families put food on the table for themselves and their family members. In terms of the 17-day shutdown, the submarine base, all of, again, the civilian support staff, DOD employees who were told you're not essential, you don't have to come to work. We didn't have crane operators doing their job on the base. We didn't have all the support and maintenance staff in terms of making sure the operations of that base functioned. So again, this is a totally unnecessary, unforced error which will cause havoc in every other military installation and every other DOD facility around the country. Now, Mr. Speaker, I would just say this. There is a pathway here. There is a roadmap, and we know that because at the end of May, when we passed the Fiscal Responsibility Act, which avoided a default on the full faith and credit of this country, Democrats and Republicans came together, a center-left, center-right coalition that passed those measures. The final vote on May 31st, when we passed the Fiscal Responsibility Act, passed 314 to 117. There was 165 Democrats and 149 Republicans that came together to avoid that catastrophic consequence of a default, something that hasn't happened since the War of 1812. On the rule vote that led up to the Fiscal Responsibility Act, again, it was a center-left, center-right coalition that got that measure to the floor. 52 Democrats voted for the rule, which is unheard of in this town, to have the minority party vote to support the majority party for a rule. But 52 of us did that. Honestly, I've been here a while. I consider that one of my proudest votes, to make sure that we were going to look beyond party and do what was right for our country in terms of making sure that critical functions at a time like this, when both domestically and overseas there is so much at stake in terms of having a stable, functioning government so that we can do the work for the American people. Mr. Speaker, there's a military saying which I think members should be thinking about today as we approach this critical week. And it says, lead, follow, or get out of the way. There is clearly going to be a measure that is going to get put together in the Senate. It's happening right now as we speak. That is bipartisan. It's a 45-day extension to keep the government open, allow the Appropriations Committee to finish its work. We need to pass that. We need to lead, follow, or get out of the way. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. The chair.